Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are reading episodes 17 and 18 of Tower of God. So last time we really got into this bonus challenge thing that is going on with Laure and the kind of battle royale thing that's happening, and we really got to see Shibitsu, Anaak, and Hats show off what their team is capable of and really build on where their team's abilities lie, and add a little bit to the mystery of Anaak, because there seems to be some of the people in the tower who have an idea of who she is, where she's from, what capabilities she has that the rest of us are not privy to. Lots of mystery still around her and what her deal is. Mostly we just got to see how powerful she was, and a little bit of Hats as well, which raises the question of why we're setting up this really powerful and capable team early on. And I can only think of two reasons for this. One, it's just to show off Shibitsu's team and be like, hey, look at these really strong people. Bomb's not the only one who has a strong team that's backing him up. There's lots of other people in the tower who are capable too. Or two, we're setting them up to, obliterate them with one of the more powerful teams that is gearing up to be part of this bonus round. And I know that doesn't kick them out of the tower, it's not like other challenges where if you lose you can't progress, but I also don't want to see Shibitsu get beat up. I like him a lot, so I would hope that someone wouldn't beat him up. But if I had to guess which team was gonna come in and just completely annihilate Anaak's team, I would be probably gonna be this mystery team that we got introduced to, the one that has the princess and the other irregular is on that team. If I had to guess, I would say it's them, and it's a way of just showing off how powerful they are and being hey, teams with irregulars, teams with a lot of firepower behind them are also in the tower, and Bomb has to be aware that challenges are going to get exponentially harder the further and further he gets up the tower. But we ended off the last chapter with Laure's team going up against Shibitsu and his team. They seem to be doing pretty good themselves. We didn't really get into them properly fighting because there was another random team that we didn't really get to know. We saw that Hats was just straight out attacking Laure because he's asleep in his little blanket burrito at the moment. That's a heck of a cliffhanger to end on. We learned that Hats has a lot of loyalty towards people and wants to have people who commit to being part of that team. If you're going to be part of a fight, Hats thinks you should fully commit to being part of that fight and that you should be supporting the people that you're in that fight with. So seeing Laure asleep during a fight rubbed him the wrong way and decided to just straight up attack him, which I think is probably a prompt for us to see how Laure deals with confrontation, because we haven't seen him fight at this point and I don't know exactly what he's capable of or where he's coming from. Excited to see what Laure's capable of. Hopefully we won't see anything super bad happen to Shibitsu and his team, but let's just get into episode 17. Episode 17, where we left off with Hats attacking Laure. So let's see how this turns out. Sorry, I got momentarily distracted by the highlighting on this. Shading, not important right now, but it's pretty good. Oh, so it was Laure who decided to join. Interesting. I thought it would have been the girl that's always picking a fight with Shibitsu. I actually really like Laure. I've only seen him a little bit, but anyone who is just tired all the time, and what was it, was he passed Hansang's floor because he was irritated, he was just put out and that's why he passed. I think he might end up being one of my favorite characters. He's also one of the smarter characters. I remember there being a moment where there was a bunch of shots and it was Kun, Anaak, and Laure were the characters that were shown, and it was implying that they were all more strategic and intellectual. So I think that might also win me over in terms of liking his character, just because I don't have a lot of brute strength in me. Might find that surprising. I'm not a fighter really, but I got some brains according to my teachers. I was good at school. I also think it's interesting that they're talking about how the advantage shifts. So like the first couple of rounds, being the defending team, yeah, has a disadvantage. And I touched on that before because I was like, if you start defending at the beginning, then you have to like continue to defend and you have to like keep hold of that crown for longer, especially in the beginning, because like you would have a disadvantage because it's really hard for you to, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the strategy. I mean, I think it's definitely easier later on to defend because there's going to be so much competition, right? So if you already have the crown, then it's easier to keep that crown and come up with like a defensive plan than it is to like account for being offensive against a bunch of new people, because you don't know the power set of the people that you're going up against necessarily, because they haven't spent a lot of time with each other at this point. So if you don't know what you're going to come up against and like what teams are going to be involved that you're going to have to fight with, then that's a lot different than just defending the crown. Like I feel like defense is easier than offense in this case, because if you already have the crown, then you know you're just defending it, whereas like if you're trying to get the crown, then you have to fight the other teams while also fighting the team that has the crown. Does that make sense? Like I guess like you have to fight the other teams too to a certain extent if you have the crown, but I feel like it's easier to be defensive than offensive because you don't actually have to necessarily fight them. Maybe Laure will explain it to me because I feel like I'm not fully understanding the shift between it being a disadvantage to an advantage. Especially since he's implying it has something to do with the specific skills and abilities of the people on his team. So I'm sure he'll explain it to me. See, that's kind of what I said. I was like, there's a difference between defending the crown in the seat because like you already have the objective, right? So if you were already, I think the time constraint was what I wasn't taking into account. Like if you were like already on the throne with the crown, then they have to get you off of that throne within the first 5 minutes. So that is definitely like a disadvantage. Like you have already time working on your side if you were the defending team. Plus, like I said before, like if you're offensive, you're not just fighting the one team to get the crown, you're fighting everybody. Whereas like the defending team doesn't necessarily have to get involved in that fight right away either. I think that's another thing that makes it advantageous to be on the throne, to have the crown going into the final rounds, is that chances are the other teams are going to be fighting each other before they're going to fight you. You're either going to have some time where you can observe their abilities and come up with some kind of plan, or there's just going to be less people that are going to be trying to get the crown from you because some of the teams have already been beat out. Yeah. The safest team to be for the first 5 minutes is the defending team. Also, is it just me or did the art quality go up a little bit? At least the like shading and coloring choices. There's some nice line work happening. I'm not mad about it. We love the confidence. Like he's still like wrapped up in his like blanket / sleeping bag thing. You are a Shinsu user. Is that like what Laure used, where he like made the barrier by like controlling the density of the Shinsu? There is like an implication that there's like some kind of magic system around the Shinsu. So there was a plan. Pretend to fight Shibitsu. Ooh, I'm interested. So he's like the secret weapon then, Laure. I'm very excited to see what his abilities are gonna be. That also means that like being asleep is almost like intentionally like provoking the team. Like they're either going to not pay attention to him because they're like, oh, he's just sleeping, he's not even in the fight, so like they won't even notice him during the fight, or it's gonna provoke them in the case of like it did with Hats, where it's gonna make him like a focal point for the attack, which will then, I don't know, it almost like concentrates the attention of the other team on him. They're not paying attention to who's going after Anaak, right? Especially if he has some kind of like showy ability. I'm very interested in what this plan ends up being. Ooh, excited to learn about his power. Did he attack straight for the throne? So did Anaak have to leave the throne then? Like, I'm not sure if this counts as her leaving the throne. No, it looks like she's still technically on it, just on top, like when she sat down originally. Hat's coming in, helping out. Don't bother our little cutie. I agree. Anaak wags her tail. It's adorable. We have Cutie Pie and Hats with their tail wagging, and you know, Shibitsu's just like chaotic, but like in a heartwarming way. You know, he means well. Uh-oh. Laure's a little intense. I don't know how to feel because I like Anaak and I like Laure, and I don't know how I feel about them attacking each other. Still on the throne, though. I think Anaak might be a little bit more formidable than Laure expects. Especially since, like I was talking before about them both being more like strategic and analytical. So I feel like Anaak may be able to adjust well to like learning that Laure is a Shinsu user. Like I feel like if anyone has a little bit of diversity to their fighting style, I feel like it might be Anaak. The bait. Who are we trying to bait? Ugh. I don't know what that face is, but I don't like it. I don't like the facial expression on Anaak now either. That seems a little over dramatic. Considering Laure did just actively like try to like laser beam her out of existence. Fair enough. Even Kun is a little bit shook. I expect it from Bomb. That's the end? Okay, on episode 18. Okay, episode 18. I don't know why I'm like giddy about this, but I am. So is Laure flying through the air? Still in his blanket, sleeping bag thing? Anaak definitely has some long range capability, but I want to know what the demonic face thing was that appeared when she was using her weapon. If her weapon is powerful the way that the Black March is, then I'm assuming that there's some kind of like consciousness in it, because the Black March has like a presence within it that we saw as like the woman that appeared. So I'm assuming that that face was whatever the spirit presence thing is inside of her weapon. They're both long range though. Laure and Anaak, between Laure using the Shinsu as a way of like manipulating energy or whatever, and then Anaak with like the longer hook, almost scythe kind of weapon. Both of them would do really well with sitting on the throne. Like I feel like we saw like Shibisu was like, I should have sat in the throne because I have like the least amount of power, so it makes more sense for the most powerful people to be out defending. But I feel like you would want someone who just is really good at long range attacks, like someone who is going to be able to still fight from a distance and like back you up while staying on the throne. Like Shibisu would be like useless on the throne. Like he would not be able to do anything except to sit on the throne and wait. Whereas having Anaak sitting on the throne means that she can like still join in with the fight while maintaining her seat. The box? Is that how Laure is seeing it? We still haven't seen Evan Kell, who is like the administrator of the floor, who's away. Maybe it's Hansong? Hansong is like also kind of important. Hello, Laure. Is Anaak Jihad? Which has been mentioned a few times, so I would like some context for what exactly that is. Couple of things. One, falls short of your expectations? That makes me curious of what other people are usually from Jihad, like what other characters we would be dealing with. Also mentioning Lady Yuri, who I miss. I know that her and Evan are like traveling to like find Bomb and get the Black March back, but I miss her. I hope she comes back soon. That weapon does seem to be dangerous, yes. I think it's a little bit too close to what the Black March is, which is like also really dangerous, like we saw with, which we saw with Lady Yuri, because Black March is originally Lady Yuri's. So is Lady Yuri also Jihad? In which case, are the weapons linked to that somehow? Because Lady Yuri got hers as like a gift, right? From a king? I don't remember exactly the context of it. It was back in like episode 2. I don't fully remember, but I feel like maybe that has something to do with being Jihad, because I don't know if that's like a specific group of people. I don't know if that's like involved with training or education, or if that's like nationality more. I'm not sure if it's like a demographic thing or an education thing, really. That was a really big hook. Like if that's the throne right there. Look how big that is. I do like the green though. Ooh, I don't know if this is a shading decision or if those are like actual scratches on the throne, but either way, it looks like a cool detail. Because if Anaak is like using this, it almost has a whip quality to it, because it's like flexible, but then it can like almost like straighten out. But it would totally make sense to have like scratches on the throne if she's just like swinging it around. I can't get over Laure running around still in this like in like burrito form. I know it's not supposed to be funny in this context, but I find it funny. It separates into pieces. Wow, that's a versatile too. I didn't expect it to like branch off like that. He is evolved from burrito form. Getting serious now. Look at that superhero stance though. I'm curious about the blonde person who was also on their team. what is their capability? What do they have going on? Kun looks a little bit shocked and maybe nervous now. Wait till he sees the Black March. Like, wait till Bomb has to like actually fight and it turns chaotic. I want to know what an ignition weapon is. I assume it's like what the Black March is, like something that has like kind of mystical capabilities beyond just like stagnant weapon, right? Bomb, are you okay? Does that have something to do with the Black March? Yes. Is it reacting to being in close proximity? Because if they both have like their own consciousness in them, then I assume that they would be like aware of being near each other. I love the lining up of those shots. Him with his hand on his weapon, and then Anaak with her hand on her weapon. It's just a nice way of transitioning between panels. Satisfying to see like panels that have similar subject matter in them, but are like different places. I'm assuming Anaak's weapon is also going to react to the Black March being around. Wait, does Anaak know what the Black March is? It's a pretty famous thing, isn't it? Because Kun also knew about it. Interesting. Also, the shading on these last couple of episodes, just really nice. I'm getting a little bit distracted by it. I like that Laure's blanket looks like a cape. Are we running away now? True. I mean, if they lose the bonus round, they're not actually gonna be like kicked out of the tower. So gotta weigh the pros and cons of this. Especially if the Black March is gonna like be chaotic, then you probably don't want to get in between two like sentient weapons. I'm nervous of them like having to be in the same round together. Like if they actually have to fight each other, it'll probably look cool, but like Bomb does not have any control really over the Black March. Like there's a very tenuous agreement of them to kind of work together. Okay, so you can forfeit. So they're out of the whole round now. Like they're not just the round, but I'm assuming they're also out of the game altogether. Like they can't just join the next round. I don't know why they want to. They still have to deal with like Anaak. Already asleep. Back to Burrito. Yeah, I'm like, is she gonna leave the throne? Because if she's interested in the Black March, is she gonna care about winning this bonus round? Or is her curiosity gonna be more intriguing? Anaak doesn't seem very interested in like being part of the team. Like I feel like Anaak is a little bit more independent and will probably just do what interests her. Ooh, Rock's getting involved. That makes me feel a little bit better. I think Kun probably has a lot of firepower behind him too, because I still don't know what's in that briefcase, but I feel better about Rock also getting involved. Look at that teamwork though. Team caring for each other, looking out for each other. I like to see it. Especially from their like captain, isn't that what they said? Leader? Isn't Rock the leader of their team? He was so proud. Yeah, I think Anaak is gonna do what she is interested in, which right now is the Black March. No. I feel like that's gonna be like Bob's, like, give me the weapon, and he's gonna be like, I can't. Especially since he borrowed it, and he's supposed to give it back to Lady Yuri, so he's gonna be like, it's not even mine. I can't give it to you. That's the end. I really like in that episode how we were getting a lot of Laure and his kind of way of going about stuff, because I didn't really know anything about him. I feel like these are two teams that we haven't gotten to really see their personalities a whole lot, with like the exception of Shibitsu, who we've seen a bunch of. So getting to see these last few handful of episodes that kind of focus on teams other than Bomb, like I kind of like the setup of this, where I know before I was talking about how I either love tournament arcs or I don't like them at all. And I feel like this is a good way of going about a tournament style story. In my opinion, which can be wrong for some people, I think that a key part to like getting through a good tournament style arc is to focus on character development. And I feel like most of the time people are like, hey, here are a bunch of cool fights, which like is part of it obviously because we're fighting, but it can't be like the sole purpose of the story. I think that the key aspect of a tournament arc has to be character development. I think the people that end up getting like matched up against each other have to have some kind of resonance for them to like develop as characters, to not only expand their fighting ability and like what they're capable of when they're in combat of some kind, but also like develop something personal about them, whether that is like what they think their own limitations are, what kind of motives they have or reasons for being in the conflict that they're in, or it has to like expand on some kind of like other fear or want that that person has. So I think that that's a really key part of a tournament arc that I actually enjoy. If it's just a bunch of cool fights, I mean, yeah, I guess it's cool fights, but it doesn't do anything for like the overall story. You could take it out, and other than like maybe some injuries or like slight power-ups in someone's ability, it's not going to change the overall story. So there needs to be some kind of story motivation behind why you're having these fights. And I like that in this context, Bam and Kun and Rock, who are like the main characters that we've learned a lot about, aren't fighting. They aren't part of it. They're in the background. They show up every once in a while. They're kind of important now with the whole Black March and Anaak thing. But like for most of this, we barely saw them. They were in a couple of panels. And I think that that's really important to kind of have the main characters take a back seat and let some of the other characters have a moment to be the center and to like have the audience learn some about them before we like transition into the rest of the story where like they're gonna have some kind of prevalence to what that story is. I assume we're learning a bunch about them because they're gonna be important later. See some of Laure's kind of more strategic side and him thinking through what exactly is the best point for them to join into the fight, how they were going to defend the crown when they got it, or how they were going to get it, and them going into that round with an actual plan, even though it seemed a little bit impulsive, but they actually had some idea of like what they were going to do to take advantage of their situation. It didn't work out, which is, you know, unfortunate, but I like that we got to see that there was some thought into when and how they were going to join into this bonus challenge. And of course we got some information about Anaak and the mystery of kind of who she is. We have it linked to this jihad again, which has come up a few times now. I think there was like a princess of jihad was something that was mentioned. We had the connection with Lady Yuri. I also know that Lady Yuri is like a princess too, so I don't know if when we talk about princesses how important that is. I know there was some discussion in the comments of one of my videos about like how common princesses are and like how the hierarchy works. I don't really know because the tower is like huge and I only know like a tiny little bit about what this gigantic world is, so I don't really know how much to connect to that, but we know a little bit about her past. We know that she probably has one of these weapons that is very much like the Black March and has like its own kind of presence and spirit that kind of embodies it, and it freaks me out a little bit from like the weird crazy eyes that we saw, so that freaks me out. I also don't like the look that Anaak has now that she's like fully unlocked the power. She's kind of like a bored, uninterested look, and now she's like a very intense stare that is freaking me out a bit. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna get into come the next episode because we have Anaak abandoning this bonus challenge and going off of the throne so that she can try and take this Black March weapon from Bam. I assume it's not going to go well because 1, Bam isn't going to want to give it up. 2, I feel like Rock and Kun are going to like try to defend him and help him out. And 3, the Black March has a bit of an attitude and she seems to actually like Bam, so I'm assuming she's not just gonna like want to be passed off to this random other person. So I'm assuming that there's gonna be a fight of some kind that will break out. I wonder if any of the like people who run this floor will intervene. Like, I don't know how important it is to like stay within the rules of this challenge and to like kind of corral the people who are going through the tower. I don't know if they'll be that invested or if they'll just like let them fight it out because why not? I assume most people don't want anyone to make it through the towers, so I feel like they wouldn't mind a little carnage as just like off on the side of like these two teams fighting it out with each other. If you liked this video, you can go and watch this playlist of my other reactions to Tower of God, or you can subscribe to the channel. I post new Tower of God videos every Tuesday, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!